Hello, everyone, and
Hello.
welcome to a new episode. Today, we are having Dr. Hamid. He's one of my colleagues, and he helped me initially when I was trying to match here in Canada. And today, I have the pleasure to interview him, and he being on my channel and helping many people who are trying to get into the Canadian residency system. Welcome, Hamid.
Hello, and thanks for having me here.
Oh, my pleasure. That would be great. Your story, I'm sure, is going to be inspiring for many, many people who are listening to us.
I hope so.
Yeah, it will. So, why you don't start and like tell us about a bit about yourself, where did your med school, how you ended up coming here in Canada?
Great. I'm now 45, and I immigrated to Canada when I was 35. I think
Okay.
it's important to mention this because people may want to know that if they are older or younger for this and how to start. For sure, if you immigrate at the younger age, your chance is higher. But my story shows that if you want something, regardless of your age or your background, you can, if you are lucky enough and you're persevere, you can reach your goal. I went to medical school in Iran. I graduated in 2000 and went to urology. Started urology 2003, finished at 2008. Practiced for a couple of years there, and then at the end of my residency, first residency in Iran, I thought that for social reasons, that might be a good idea to immigrate, and I immigrated to Canada. I entered Canada in 2012, and then I did a research fellowship in Vancouver Prostate Center in urology, and then I applied for residency in between. When I was applying, I matched in the second year, not the first year. And when I was applying to residency, there was an opportunity that I did a year of clinical fellowship in Vancouver as well. While I was applying, I was applying at the same time for family medicine and urology at the same time. And I just wanted to get matched to any possible program for me. I got interviews for family medicine. And in the first year, I got interviews for family medicine and also urology. Didn't get matched to any. And then the second year, I got matched to urology. And now I graduated from Ottawa program, and now I'm in practice. I'm practicing urologist right now in Chatham as a community urologist.
Wow, that's an inspiring story. I'm sure like many people would get inspired when when they hear all these things. So, I believe like you wrote the exams several years ago. How was it like to write the exams after you did your fellowship, after you did a lot of things, going to the basics? How was it? What did you do?
It is not easy. I would say so. The first when I was planning to come to Canada at my time, I think there was MCCEE, and
Mhm.
first, and everybody should have taken that. And at that time, the score was not that important. And I was in practice. I was practicing urology. I was in Iran. I studied that exam. I wrote that exam in 2011 in Dubai. And then when we came here, it was like I still had QE1 and then NAC-OSCe after. At that time, NAC-OSCe was kind of like so-so, but now it's mandatory. And then second year that I was applying, NAC-OSCe was a mandatory exam to have. So I wrote QE1 and NAC-OSCe, and of course, TOEFL exam or IELTS. Those are also challenging exams, I think, for us.
Yeah.
So I went through that. For I was lucky enough. I was working, I was doing research, and I was writing the exam. And basically, I didn't have a lot of time to go through Toronto notes. What I was doing, I was reading the notes that my wife actually was taking during her study from the Toronto notes. So I was reading her notes and being prepared for the exam. And then, well, when I was trying to get to NAC-OSCe, I remember I got 1 week off before the exam. I was not studying for that at all. I knew that I needed that, but I didn't have time. And everybody, like a week before, I did a mock exam and I did poorly on that. And the examiner was like, "Hey, you shouldn't write that the exam." Is like, I have no choice. I want to get matched this time. This is the second year. So on that week, I again went through that, like some practice with my wife. She was not optimistic about my performance, but NAC-OSCe went well. I did the NAC-OSCe, and it went well. So, but if I want to make a recommendation, that take time, not a year, but spend time and be prepared for NAC-OSCE, because the score now is very important.
Yeah.
Regarding your question about how difficult it was, back to basic, for me after graduating in 2001, coming out of medical school, focusing on urology and then research in urology, practicing urology, fellowship in urology, all of those things, basically it was difficult. And as you know, and you see that we rotate in the first 2 years of residency in different disciplines. And in second year of my residency in Ottawa, they put me as a senior resident of ICU. And it was really terrifying going through that. So you are the most senior resident of the night, and basically the last time you read these things was 15 years ago in medical school. So it is tough, but you learn. You learn, and you learn how to use the supports, and be prepared for those situations. Definitely, it was difficult to go through the exam basics, but again, if you want something, you're persevere, you find the right track, you can do it.
Nice, nice. And so, other than the exams, let's talk about some research. Did you do any research? How research helped you? Any publications? How was it?
Well, again, one thing I want to say, that everybody has different pathway to success in
Mhm.
this difficult, kind of uncertain road. My pathway was mostly supported by research, and I think you may not necessarily need that, but that was my focal point. So before coming to Canada, I had a couple of publications. I would say like 17 publications before coming to Canada. So I was doing research in Iran, and that was my contact when I came to Vancouver, went to Vancouver Prostate Center, and started as a research fellow or postdoc fellow there. And then, of course, when you are in a good setting, you practice more, you publish more. So before matching to residency, I had, I think it was about 30 publications in total. Um,
Wow.
so that was my pathway, but I think that was not that much important to get matched to the program. And we talk about that more. That the important part is how to make your network. And for me, the research was mainly the focal point to put my feet at the door and stay there, and make my network and connections.
Wow, nice. So, like, we were talking about exams and the research, but like, what about electives or observerships and the letter of reference? How you ended up getting them and how they help you in your residency?
So I think those are important, and you need good letter of reference. And again, for different people, the pathway is different. For me, when I started doing research fellowship in Vancouver, what happened was that during my application for the second year, I was doing research, and then there was some changes in the program, and they lost 3 residents. So they hired me as a clinical fellow there, and I started working with people. And what happened was that you work with people, you get letters, and they know you. And we were talking about how important is the way that they write the letter for you. Like, it's if you get a letter from Canadian physician, it would be focused on different part of your skill set. So one is your knowledge, the other is your communication skill, your collaboration, your professionalism, and or your personal traits. So they write different letters for different people. And the wording that they use, it means different for different people. For me, I had a chance to talk to I had the chance to talk to my program director and regarding my references, and he was like, the most important letter that you had was the one that came from the chief resident. And so I had like three reference letter, and then I had the supporting document, which came from the chief resident at Vancouver. And then basically he was like, okay, so when the moment that I felt that you can work with the resident to the point that they write a letter for you, means that in my program you will. So that was very important. It's not written anywhere. It's not something that you say, okay, that's my plan. That was what happened for me, and that was the helpful part. And again, for different people, could be different story. And usually that's why they want letters from North American physician, because the system here works differently, and the description in the letters are different. So through the letter, they can try. Sometimes they know the people, like they know, for example, me, who I am writing for a medical student or an IMG. So they know me and they trust me differently compared to other physicians. So if I write a letter for you, and this is going to my program director in Ottawa, they interpret that differently, that it comes from to a physician that they don't know him. So that's the important part of getting more exposure to clinical opportunities. Although it is tough and it's not very clear, or it's not available for everybody, but that's the important part.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Like, I've noticed this, like your knowledge is important, knowing a lot, like especially for us IMG, we like always think about our scores, but also at the end of the day, they really look forward to work with someone who is willing to stay there, do the extra shift, the extra call, who is willing to stay an hour later, who's always pleasant, doesn't complain. Yeah. So I totally agree with you. Like the letters of reference plays a huge role. And because like they're going to be living with you for the next 2, 3, 5 years. It depends on the program, right?
Well, the reality is in the surgical disciplines, like your staff probably sees you more than their families, and that's
Right.
important. That they are living with you, so
Yes.
that's why it is important to focus on other aspects. And you know what, this comes over time with experience. It's not like that when I started I was able to communicate with people like the way I am doing right now. I learned over time by experience, by being there. And I've done a lot of mistakes. It's not that overnight you just do the best thing and they just go for the best people in the world. No, it's just a learning experience, being in um, um, being there, and expose yourself to the system and people.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So you've done your exams and you did some research and electives or observerships. What about like extracurricular things, volunteering or like helping the community? Did you do any of that, and how did that help?
I did well. I would say it's not a big picture in my portfolio when we were talking about that, but I did the um, um, the runs and walk for bladder cancer and prostate cancer. I participated in fundraising, Movember activities, and something like that. It's not a big picture in my portfolio, although it is important,
Mhm.
and I strongly recommend that, because it shows how you are uh, engaged with the culture and with the different system. And I think this is something that probably it's not very common in other part of the world, for example. And the other thing that I would definitely recommend, if you are having some sport activities or interests, or for example, you're playing music, these are good skill set that you have, and they like this, and bring it up. It's something that they like. They feel that, okay, he's someone like me.
Yeah,
This kind of
yeah.
like this is one way of connecting to people.
Exactly, like having those side talks when you are working or doing something. Like I love cooking, and it's something like I really share a lot of with my colleagues, where we like, and also like before COVID, I used to invite my friends to come here, and I used to cook to them. For so yeah, yeah, like having those small things will give you the opportunity also like for the side talk where like you can engage with people.
Yeah. And this is human nature. Like they
Yeah,
feel, okay, he's a good guy. Like how that sentence is made in your mind, that he's a good guy, based on what? Like they're not testing you. It's just the
yeah,
human connection. Then at some point they feel that, oh, okay, he's somebody like me.
yeah, yeah.
And then they start to support you, and it
Mhm.
takes time. It takes time.
It takes time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So after you did all these things, like what do you think helped you the most in getting into residency?
Well, first of all, there you should be lucky. Number one, I think, and especially when the competition is hard, um, that's something. But to increase your chance, you should be there. You should get
Hmm.
get your foot in. You should expose yourself. You have more chance. Well, I have an example that if you are a fan of soccer and watch that and see that how the referees mistakes works for the champions, because they attack more, they are there, so then the mistakes actually work in favor of them.
Yeah,
um, and chance and luck, or whatever you want to call, happens for people who are actively applying and engaging themselves, and they are persevere. So I think that's number one. If you want something, you will get that. Number two is that the connection, the network that you make is really important. It's not like somebody calls you, like you know me, you say, hey Hamid, can you write a reference, or can you call your colleague? That may work, may not work, or may actually work against you. But the way that you make your network, you go there, you know people, you spend time, you do the legwork, then it shows itself. I remember, so I tell you one story that I did 2 days of site visit in Ottawa, because at that time I requested for elective. It was not possible, but they had a plan to see people, so they said that, okay, you can come and observe us for 2 days. So I'm leaving Vancouver when I was in the middle of my fellowship. I'm leaving Vancouver to Ottawa. So residents in Vancouver, they know, but the staff, they didn't know that I'm living there. So I arrived in Ottawa, and then the first thing that the program director tells me that Dr. X uh, sent me an email, and he said a lot of good words about you. I was like, who? And I told him.
unbelievable.
So this guy that I was working with him, and he was my one of the staff there. We never had any interaction more than hi and bye, or very formal, like very formal work. He was just watching me, and
Wow,
then apparently that day he goes to the work and say, hey, where is Hamid? And the residents say that he's in Ottawa. What is he doing in Ottawa? He's going for a site visit, and he's just writing a letter, an email to the program director there. And I didn't know that they actually were co-fellows during their fellowship, and I had no idea, but he did, without I asked him. So these are the things, like you make your network, and sometimes you don't know how it works, but apparently behind the scene, people were advocating for me, and I was not even aware of that. So what I did for that, I just showed, worked, as you said, like put your head down, work as much as you can, and trust yourself and do the right thing. And this is really helpful, to have a good network, and that's what you actually make. Like you make your network, and you go from there. I think that was, in my story, that was my network was the most important part, and I spent time for that, like to make my network, basically.
yeah, I think like reputation is one of the hardest things to build, and also like it's the easiest things to destroy at the same time.
Yeah,
Like only single mistake can destroy a lot of good work. But like when you have a good reputation, like that helps a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, that's impressive. Like
yeah,
someone like just wrote an email about you without you asking them. Like
nothing. Yeah,
wow,
I heard that. It was like, who? It's like, I never asked him. I was like, yeah, he sent that email. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Of course, I thanked him after, but that was something about the chance, increasing the chance.
that's a nice story. So after you finish this and you were applying, in that time, there are usually like government-based organizations or it's like some organizations that are like private without like mentioning any names. Did you seek any help from them? Were they helpful or like you were by yourself in this path?
Well, I used there are organizations like from the immigration department that they
Mhm.
try to help all the skilled worker, and it's good at the beginning to use their help. I would say their recommendation is more general. It's not very goal directed, or for a specialty directed, for example. They know general things like how to write the resume, or like your a skill set it's needed. It's more kind of like a or the skill set for the interview. Like for example, they have some sort of format of teaching you how to interview, but they're not so specific to medicine. They're like general recommendations. I've used their help, especially at the beginning, and again, you should have all the options on the table, and you should use whatever you can get. And I think, yeah, that help does exist. Try
Mhm.
to get as much as you can from that, but you may need to make your pathway and use different resources to get into the residency pathway or other way of being able to practice.
Nice, nice. And like, what would be your like take-home points for people who are listening? Like, what would be like things that you want to say for them?
Well, I would say, first of all, be realistic. So the numbers, the spots are limited. It's not that you are not a good candidate. If you apply for 1 year and you can't get matched, that's okay, because at the end of the day, less than 10% of applicants, like IMG applicants, get matched to the programs. And 90, the other 90%, they are good people, they're talented, they have the qualification. So this is a tough competition. So be persevere, find your pathway, find your network. I don't know if we talk about the interview, or how to prep for interview, but interview is, I would say, it's a full job. It's you need to practice on the interview. It's hard to get the interview. It's also hard to pass the interview successfully, and you have to be prepared and have a plan for that. I would say make spend time to make your network. I would say practice on your English. That's important. That's very important. It's one of those skills that is probably is more important than what we think. Again, that's human connection. Like it's if you speak more fluently, then your chance will be increased. Have a smile on your face always. Work hard, be yourself, and continue the right thing, and always talk to different people, understand their points, and follow their recommendations. But at the same time, don't forget that your pathway could be completely different from other people, and you make your success story, and then you come here and share your story.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. I'm sure your story will be like really helpful for many people who are trying to get in and who like did some fellowship or residency back in their country, and they are like in their 30s or 40s and they always think about like the age as factor. But I think like you're a living example of how like hard work pays off. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. That was a great opportunity, and thank you for doing this. I think that's very important, and sharing their stories, and and talking to people will help a lot of people, and that's a great work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
And you too.